During the darkest days of World War II, wounded soldiers faced a battle beyond the battlefield, the fight to recover in hospital beds. The meals that helped them heal were often simple, carefully crafted foods that modern medicine has largely forgotten. These weren't gourmet dishes, but they were lifesavers. What amazed me most while researching wasn't just how these therapeutic foods accelerated healing, but how innovative military dietitians got with limited wartime ingredients. And wait until you hear about number 14. It's a recovery food that top trauma centers are bringing back today. Beef broth, the foundation of recovery. When a wounded soldier arrived at a World War II hospital, beef broth was often the first real nourishment they received. Picture this, a young medic in a field hospital outside Normandy, carefully spooning warm broth into the mouth of a soldier who hadn't eaten solid food in days. That simple broth could mean the difference between recovery and continued decline. Military nutritionists discovered that clear beef broth provided essential electrolytes and proteins without taxing damaged digestive systems. The warm liquid helped maintain body temperature in patients suffering from shock, while the salt content replaced vital minerals lost through blood loss and trauma. What made beef broth so valuable was its digestibility. When stomachs couldn't handle solid food, this clear liquid provided concentrated nutrition that wounded bodies could immediately absorb. A single cup contained enough protein and minerals to stabilize a patient's condition during the critical first hours of treatment. One nurse from a base hospital in England told me her grandfather would describe the moment patients asked for more broth as the turning point in their recovery. When they wanted that second cup, she said, we knew they were going to make it. Milk toast, the comfort food that healed. In the sterile environment of military hospitals, milk toast became more than food. It was comfort wrapped in nutrition. This simple combination of warm milk poured over soft toast represented home, motherhood, and the promise of healing to countless wounded soldiers. Made with enriched bread, soaked in warm, vitamin-fortified milk, this dish provided easily digestible carbohydrates and complete proteins. Hospital dietitians would often add a touch of butter for extra calories, knowing that wounded soldiers needed every bit of nutrition they could absorb. Mrs. Peterson, whose uncle served as a medic in the Pacific Theatre, shared that milk toast was the bridge food between liquid diets and solid meals. Uncle Joe would tell us how soldiers' faces would light up when they saw milk toast on their tray. It meant they were getting better, getting closer to going home. What's remarkable about milk toast is how it addressed both physical and emotional needs. The familiar taste provided psychological comfort, while the gentle nutrition supported cellular repair. For many soldiers, it was the first solid food that actually stayed down after severe injuries. Egg custard, the protein powerhouse. When protein was desperately needed for tissue repair but stomachs were too weak for meat, egg custard became the hospital hero. This silky, smooth dessert packed the complete protein of eggs into a form that even the most delicate digestive systems could handle. Hospital dietitians would prepare custard using powdered eggs when fresh ones weren't available, mixing them with milk and just enough sugar to make the medicine go down. The result was a protein-rich food that provided all essential amino acids needed for wound healing. A veteran who spent 3 months in a military hospital after shrapnel wounds told me that egg custard was what finally helped him gain back the weight he'd lost. The nurses would bring it warm, and you could feel the strength flowing back into your body with each spoonful. It was like liquid energy. What made egg custard particularly valuable was its versatility. It could be served at any temperature, flavored with vanilla or lemon when available, and provided consistent nutrition whether made with fresh eggs or the shelf-stable powdered variety that kept military hospitals functioning. Rice water, the gentle stomach soother. For soldiers suffering from dysentery, food poisoning, or the digestive trauma that often followed severe injuries, rice water became a lifeline. This simple liquid, the starchy water left over from cooking rice, could calm inflamed intestines while providing gentle carbohydrates. Military hospitals discovered that rice water helped replace fluids lost through illness while being gentle enough not to trigger further digestive distress. The starch provided quick energy without requiring complex digestion, making it perfect for patients whose systems were shutting down from trauma. Mr. Johnson from Alabama shared that his father, who served in a mobile army surgical hospital in Italy, called rice water the great equalizer. No matter how severe the digestive issues, rice water was almost always tolerated. Dad said it kept more soldiers alive than people realized, especially when they couldn't keep anything else down. Beyond its medical benefits, rice water was economical and easy to prepare in large quantities. When hospitals were overwhelmed with casualties and resources were stretched thin, this simple byproduct of cooking rice became precious nutrition that cost almost nothing to produce. Liver pudding, the iron miracle. While it might sound unappetizing today, liver pudding was considered a miracle food in World War II military hospitals. This smooth, pâté-like dish provided concentrated iron, B vitamins, and protein that were essential for treating the anemia that commonly followed blood loss from wounds. Hospital dietitians would grind cooked liver with bread, milk, and seasonings, creating a palatable dish that delivered more nutrition per bite than almost any other hospital food. For soldiers who'd lost significant blood, liver pudding could literally mean the difference between recovery and prolonged weakness. A woman whose grandfather was a hospital cook in France told me that liver pudding was the most requested food among recovering soldiers once they learned how it made them feel. Grandpa said the men would actually ask for seconds. They could feel their energy returning after eating it, and that made all the difference in their outlook. What's fascinating about liver pudding is that it addressed specific wartime nutritional needs. With limited fresh vegetables and frequent blood loss among patients, this concentrated source of iron and vitamins helped prevent the nutritional deficiencies that could slow healing and prolong hospital stays. Barley water, the kidney protector. In an era when infection was a constant threat and many medications could strain the kidneys, barley water became a protective beverage that helped wounded soldiers stay hydrated while supporting kidney function. Made by boiling pearl barley and straining the liquid, barley water provided gentle diuretic properties that helped clear toxins from damaged bodies. Hospital staff would often flavor it with lemon when available, creating a refreshing drink that encouraged patients to maintain proper fluid intake. An elderly veteran from the European theater shared that barley water was what helped him recover from a kidney infection that developed after his leg wound became infected. The nurses would bring it 3 times a day like clockwork. It didn't taste like much, but I could feel it cleaning out my system. What made barley water particularly valuable was its dual action. It provided hydration while supporting the body's natural detoxification processes. For soldiers dealing with infected wounds or medication side effects, this simple drink helped their bodies heal more efficiently. Soft-boiled eggs, the perfect patient food. When solid food was finally possible but chewing was still difficult, soft-boiled eggs became the bridge between liquid diets and regular meals. These perfectly cooked eggs provided complete protein in a form that required minimal effort to eat. Hospital dietitians perfected the timing. Eggs cooked just long enough that the whites were set, but the yolks remained creamy and easily swallowed. For soldiers with jaw injuries, facial wounds, or simply extreme weakness, these eggs provided essential nutrition without the struggle of chewing. Mrs. Rodriguez, whose uncle spent 4 months in a military hospital after a bombing injury, told me that soft-boiled eggs marked the beginning of his real recovery. He always said those eggs gave him hope. When he could finally eat a whole egg, he knew he was going to make it home. The beauty of soft-boiled eggs was their reliability. Whether made with fresh eggs or reconstituted from powder, they provided consistent protein and could be prepared quickly even in busy hospital kitchens. For many soldiers, they represented the first taste of normal food after weeks of liquid nutrition. Milk punch, the caloric booster. For severely wounded soldiers who'd lost dangerous amounts of weight, milk punch became a high-calorie lifeline disguised as a treat. This mixture of milk, eggs, sugar, and sometimes a small amount of brandy provided concentrated nutrition in a form that felt more like dessert than medicine. Military nutritionists calculated that a single glass of milk punch could provide as many calories as a full meal, making it perfect for patients who could only manage small amounts of food. The eggs provided protein, the milk offered calcium and vitamins, and the sugar delivered quick energy. A nurse who worked in a stateside military hospital told me that milk punch was often the turning point for severely malnourished patients. We'd see soldiers who were just skin and bones start to gain weight within days of adding milk punch to their diet. It was like watching flowers bloom after rain. What's remarkable about milk punch is how it made necessary nutrition feel like a reward. For soldiers far from home and facing uncertain futures, this sweet, creamy drink provided both physical and emotional nourishment that supported their will to recover. Jellied Consume, the elegant medicine. When clear liquids were required but patients craved something more substantial, Jellied Consume provided the satisfaction of solid food with the digestibility of broth. This clear, protein-rich gelatin could be eaten with a spoon but dissolved quickly in the mouth. Made by adding gelatin to rich beef or chicken broth, Jellied Consume provided complete proteins and essential minerals in a form that looked and felt like real food. For soldiers tired of endless cups of broth, this represented a step toward normal eating. Mr. Davis from Ohio shared that his father, who was wounded at Guadalcanal, always remembered Jellied Consume as the first food that made him feel human again. Dad said it was like eating solid food without having to work for it. After weeks of liquids, that little bit of texture made all the difference. Beyond its psychological benefits, Jellied Consume was practical for busy hospital staff. It could be prepared in large batches, required no heating, and provided consistent nutrition that wouldn't spoil quickly in tropical climates where many military hospitals operated. Cream of rice, the stomach rebuilder. For soldiers whose digestive systems had been damaged by illness, medication, or the stress of severe injuries, cream of rice became the food that helped rebuild their ability to process nutrition. This smooth, mild cereal provided gentle carbohydrates without irritating sensitive stomachs. Hospital dietitians would prepare cream of rice with extra milk to boost protein content, creating a creamy porridge that could be flavored with a touch of sugar or vanilla. Fine texture required no chewing and was easily digested even by severely compromised digestive systems. A woman whose grandfather spent months in a military hospital after a chemical exposure told me that cream of rice was what slowly brought his appetite back. Grandpa would say it tasted like absolutely nothing, but it was the first food that didn't make him sick. Day by day, spoonful by spoonful, it helped him get better. What made cream of rice particularly valuable was its tolerance by even the most sensitive stomachs. When soldiers couldn't keep down anything else, this bland cereal often stayed down, providing the carbohydrates needed to maintain blood sugar and basic energy levels. Beef tea, the concentrated strength. Long before protein powders existed, beef tea provided concentrated nutrition in liquid form for soldiers too weak to handle solid food. Made by slowly extracting the essence from lean beef, this dark, rich liquid delivered protein and minerals in their most digestible form. Military hospitals would prepare beef tea by simmering chopped lean beef in water for hours, then straining and serving the resulting liquid. Unlike broth made with bones, beef tea contained the actual nutrients from muscle tissue, making it more concentrated nutrition. An elderly veteran from the Battle of the Bulge told me that beef tea saved his life when infection left him unable to eat for over a week. It looked like strong coffee, but you could feel the strength flowing into you with every sip. The nurses said it was what kept me from wasting away completely. What's fascinating about beef tea is how it addressed the specific needs of severely ill patients. When solid protein was impossible, but the body desperately needed amino acids for healing, this concentrated liquid provided exactly what damaged tissues required for repair. Wine jelly, the appetite stimulant. In an era when alcohol was recognized as medicine, wine jelly served a dual purpose in military hospitals. It stimulated appetite while providing quick energy from sugar. This sweet, alcoholic gelatin helped soldiers who'd lost interest in food begin to crave nutrition again. Hospital dietitians would prepare wine jelly using port or sherry when available, combining it with gelatin and sugar to create a dessert that delivered both psychological and physical benefits. The small amount of alcohol helped relax tense patients, while the sugar provided immediate energy. Mrs. Thompson from Georgia shared that her uncle, who was hospitalized after being wounded in the Philippines, credited wine jelly with helping him want to eat again. Uncle Robert said after weeks of having no appetite, that little bit of wine jelly made him remember what it felt like to actually want food. It was like switching his hunger back on. Beyond its appetite-stimulating properties, wine jelly represented a touch of civilization in the harsh environment of military hospitals. For soldiers far from home, this small luxury helped maintain morale during the long, difficult process of recovery. Albaman Water, the pure protein drink. When patients needed protein but couldn't tolerate any fat or complex foods, Albaman Water provided pure nutrition in its simplest form. Made by mixing egg whites with water and a touch of salt, this clear liquid delivered complete proteins without taxing weakened digestive systems. Military nutritionists discovered that albumin water was particularly valuable for patients with liver damage, severe burns, or digestive trauma. The egg whites provided all essential amino acids needed for tissue repair, without requiring complex digestion or processing. A man whose father served in a field hospital in Burma told me that albumin water was the standard first protein for severely wounded soldiers. Dad said it looked like slightly cloudy water, but it contained everything the body needed to start rebuilding damaged tissue. It was medicine disguised as nothing. What made albumin water remarkable was its purity. When patients' bodies were overwhelmed by trauma and couldn't handle complex foods, this simple mixture provided exactly what was needed: pure protein that could be immediately absorbed and used for healing. Chicken panada, the Victorian recovery food. This forgotten dish combined the protein of chicken with the digestibility of bread in a smooth, pudding-like mixture that became a staple in military hospitals. Chicken panada involved cooking chicken until tender, then mixing it with bread and broth to create an easily swallowed, protein-rich meal. Hospital dietitians valued panada because it could be made with tough, older chickens that weren't suitable for regular cooking. The long cooking process broke down the meat fibers, while the bread added carbohydrates and helped create a smooth texture that required no chewing. An elderly woman whose grandfather was a hospital orderly in North Africa told me that chicken panada was considered the gold standard for recovering patients. Grandpa said when soldiers could keep down panada, everyone knew they were on the road to recovery. It was substantial enough to satisfy hunger, but gentle enough for damaged stomachs. What's remarkable about chicken panada is how it's making a comeback in modern trauma centers. Nutritionists have rediscovered that this combination of protein and carbohydrates in easily digestible form is still one of the best foods for severely ill patients. Mulled wine, the warming medicine. In cold military hospitals, especially those in Northern Europe during winter, mulled wine served both as medicine and morale booster. This warm, spiced wine helped raise body temperature, stimulated circulation, and provided the psychological comfort that wounded soldiers desperately needed. Hospital staff would prepare mulled wine with whatever red wine was available, adding spices like cinnamon and cloves when possible. The alcohol content was low enough to be medicinal rather than intoxicating, while the warmth helped patients maintain crucial body heat. Mr. Anderson from Minnesota shared that his uncle, who spent the winter of 1944 in a British military hospital, always talked about how mulled wine helped him through the darkest days of his recovery. Uncle Carl said it didn't just warm your body, it warmed your spirit, made you remember there was still goodness in the world. Beyond its comfort value, mulled wine had genuine medical benefits. The alcohol helped thin blood and improve circulation to healing tissues, while the warmth provided essential calories needed to maintain body temperature in patients who couldn't move enough to generate heat naturally. Tapioca cream, the gentle carbohydrate. When soldiers needed energy but couldn't handle complex starches, Tapioca Cream provided gentle carbohydrates in a smooth, easily digestible form. This pearl-like starch, cooked in milk until creamy, offered sustained energy without stressing damaged digestive systems. Military hospitals valued tapioca because it was shelf-stable, economical, and could be prepared in large batches. When cooked properly, it created a pudding-like consistency that was satisfying to eat, while being gentle enough for the most sensitive stomachs. A veteran who spent months recovering from dysentery in a Pacific hospital told me that tapioca cream was what finally helped him regain his strength. It looked like little pearls in cream, and it was the first sweet thing I could keep down. Each spoonful seemed to give me a little more energy to fight back. What made tapioca cream particularly valuable was its sustained energy release. Unlike simple sugars that provided quick bursts of energy followed by crashes, tapioca provided steady carbohydrates that helped maintain stable blood sugar levels throughout the recovery process. Oyster Stew, the mineral powerhouse. When available, oyster stew became one of the most prized foods in military hospitals due to its incredible concentration of minerals, especially zinc, which was crucial for wound healing. This creamy soup provided nutrients that were difficult to obtain from other hospital foods. Made with fresh or canned oysters in a milk-based broth, oyster stew delivered zinc, iron, and protein in a form that even weakened patients could enjoy. The creamy texture made it feel like comfort food while providing essential nutrients for tissue repair. Mrs. Wilson from Maryland, whose father was hospitalized after being wounded in Italy, shared that oyster stew was served only to the most severely wounded patients. Dad said it was like medicine in a bowl. The doctors knew it would help healing, so they saved it for soldiers who needed it most. It was precious. What's fascinating about oyster stew is how military nutritionists intuitively understood its healing properties long before science identified zinc as crucial for wound healing. Those small, unappetizing mollusks contained exactly what wounded soldiers' bodies craved for recovery. Arrowroot Pudding, the stomach settler. For soldiers suffering from digestive distress, arrowroot pudding provided nutrition without irritation. This smooth, starchy pudding was one of the blandest foods in the hospital arsenal, but that blandness was exactly what inflamed digestive systems needed. Made from arrowroot powder mixed with milk and a small amount of sugar, this pudding had no fiber, fat, or strong flavors that could trigger digestive problems. It provided pure carbohydrates that could be absorbed even by severely damaged intestines. A man whose grandfather was a medic in the Philippines told me that arrowroot pudding was the first food many soldiers could keep down after severe dysentery. Grandpa said it looked like white pudding and tasted like almost nothing, but it was what got men through the worst of their illness. Sometimes bland is exactly what you need. The beauty of arrowroot pudding was its simplicity. When soldiers' digestive systems had been destroyed by tropical diseases, infected wounds, or medication side effects, this gentle food helped slowly rebuild their ability to process nutrition. Calves' foot jelly, the collagen source. Long before we understood the science of collagen, military hospitals used calves' foot jelly to help rebuild connective tissue in wounded soldiers. This clear, protein-rich gelatin provided the amino acids needed for skin, bone, and tissue repair. Made by boiling calves' feet until they released their natural gelatin, then straining and flavoring the resulting liquid, this jelly provided concentrated collagen in its most bioavailable form. Hospital staff would often add wine or lemon juice to improve the flavor. An elderly woman whose uncle was wounded at D-Day told me that calves' foot jelly was prescribed specifically for soldiers with slow-healing wounds. Uncle Jim said it wasn't the most appetizing thing, but the doctors insisted it would help his wounds close faster. He was convinced it worked because his healing did speed up. What's remarkable about calves' foot jelly is how it anticipated modern nutritional science. These early hospital dietitians understood that certain foods provided specific healing benefits, even without knowing the biochemistry behind collagen synthesis and tissue repair. Grul, the basic survival food. When soldiers were at their weakest and could barely swallow, gruel became the difference between life and death. This thin porridge, made from whatever grain was available mixed with water or milk, provided basic calories and nutrition when nothing else would stay down. Military hospitals would prepare gruel using oatmeal, rice, or cornmeal, cooking it until it was thin enough to drink but thick enough to provide substance. The bland taste and smooth texture made it tolerable even for patients with severe nausea or throat injuries. Mr. Peterson from Iowa shared that his father, who nearly died from infection after being wounded in France, credited gruel with keeping him alive during his worst weeks. Dad said it wasn't food, it was liquid survival. When you can't keep anything down, gruel is what keeps your body from giving up completely. The importance of gruel wasn't just nutritional, but psychological. For families receiving letters from military hospitals saying that their loved one could keep down gruel was often the first sign that recovery was possible. Eggnog, the holiday medicine. Rich, creamy eggnog became one of the most calorie-dense foods available in military hospitals, providing essential fats, proteins, and carbohydrates in liquid form. This holiday drink was transformed into year-round medicine for soldiers who needed to gain weight quickly. Made with eggs, cream, milk, and sugar, hospital eggnog delivered more calories per ounce than almost any other liquid food. When soldiers had lost dangerous amounts of weight from injuries or illness, eggnog could provide the concentrated nutrition needed for recovery. A veteran who spent Christmas 1943 in a stateside military hospital told me that eggnog wasn't just a holiday treat, it was prescribed medicine. The nurses would bring it 3 times a day like medication. It was rich enough that just a few sips felt like eating a meal. That thickness was exactly what my body needed. What made eggnog particularly valuable was its familiarity. For soldiers far from home during the holidays, this traditional drink provided emotional comfort, while delivering the high-calorie nutrition their recovering bodies desperately required. Milk jelly, the cooling comfort. In tropical military hospitals, where heat was a constant problem, milk jelly provided nutrition that could be served cold, and was gentle on stomachs upset by climate and illness. This simple gelatin made with milk provided protein and calcium in a refreshing form. Hospital dietitians would prepare milk jelly using powdered milk when fresh wasn't available, creating a smooth, creamy gelatin that could be flavored with vanilla or lemon. The cool temperature helped reduce nausea, while the protein supported healing. Mrs. Garcia from Texas, whose uncle served in the Pacific Theater, shared that milk jelly was what helped him recover from heat exhaustion complicated by wounds. Uncle Miguel said it was like eating cold, sweet milk that you could cut with a spoon. In that tropical heat, cold food was a blessing. The genius of milk jelly was how it addressed multiple problems simultaneously, providing nutrition, cooling overheated patients, and being gentle enough for sensitive stomachs all at once. In challenging tropical conditions, this simple food made recovery possible. Cocoa, the morale medicine. Rich, warm cocoa provided more than just comfort in military hospitals. It delivered essential calories, stimulated appetite, and boosted morale among soldiers facing long, difficult recoveries. This familiar drink connected patients to home while providing genuine nutritional benefits. Hospital staff would prepare cocoa using whatever chocolate or cocoa powder was available, often adding extra milk for protein and calories. The caffeine provided gentle stimulation, while the familiar taste reminded soldiers of childhood and home. A man whose grandfather was hospitalized after being wounded in Germany told me that the daily cup of cocoa was what kept spirits up during the darkest days. Grandpa said it wasn't just a drink, it was proof that someone cared about more than just keeping you alive. It meant they wanted you to actually enjoy something. What made cocoa particularly valuable was its psychological impact. For soldiers dealing with the trauma of war and injury, this simple pleasure provided hope and comfort that supported their will to heal and return to life. Junkit, the gentle dessert. This old-fashioned dessert, made by curdling milk with rennet, provided easily digestible protein in a form that felt like a treat rather than medicine. Junkit's soft, custard-like texture made it perfect for patients who couldn't handle solid foods but craved something sweet. Military hospitals valued Junkit because it could be made with basic ingredients and required no cooking, making it practical even in field hospitals with limited facilities. The milk provided complete proteins, while the sweet taste encouraged patients to consume adequate nutrition. An elderly woman whose father was a hospital cook during World War II told me that Junkit was the dessert that convinced reluctant patients to eat. Dad said soldiers who refused everything else would often accept Junkit because it felt like dessert, not medicine. Sometimes you had to trick the body into accepting what it needed. The beauty of Junkit was its simplicity and gentleness. For soldiers whose digestive systems had been damaged by trauma, illness, or medication, this mild dessert provided nutrition without irritation while satisfying the human need for sweetness and comfort. Blanc Mge, the elegant recovery food. This delicate molded dessert made from milk, sugar, and cornstarch provided sophisticated nutrition disguised as an elegant treat. Blanc Mge represented the hospital kitchen's attempt to maintain dignity and pleasure even in the midst of wartime medical care. Hospital dietitians would prepare Blanc Mge in individual molds, creating portions that looked appealing and special. The smooth texture required no chewing, while the milk base provided essential proteins and calories needed for recovery. A veteran who spent months in a British military hospital told me that Blanc Mge made him feel human again after weeks of basic hospital food. It looked fancy, like something you'd get at a nice restaurant. After endless cups of broth and plain toast, having something beautiful to eat reminded you that life could still have good moments. What made Blanc Mge remarkable was how it elevated the hospital dining experience. For soldiers facing uncertain futures and dealing with life-changing injuries, this elegant dessert provided proof that beauty and pleasure could still exist, even in the darkest circumstances. World War II was a time of unprecedented medical challenges, but it was also a period that demonstrated the remarkable healing power of carefully chosen foods. These 25 hospital meals represent more than just nutrition. They showcase the wisdom of military dietitians who understood that feeding the body and soul were equally important for recovery. What strikes me most about these therapeutic foods isn't just their medical effectiveness, but the compassion they represent. Each dish was chosen not only for its nutritional value, but for its ability to provide comfort, hope, and human dignity to soldiers facing their darkest hours. For those of you watching whose relatives served in World War II, perhaps you recognize some of these foods from family stories. Maybe your grandfather still made egg custard when family members were sick, or your grandmother always served milk toast to anyone feeling poorly. These weren't just random preferences, but inherited wisdom about the healing power of gentle nutrition. If you found this journey through World War II, hospital foods meaningful or nostalgic, hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations of medical and food history. I'd love to hear in the comments if your family used any of these therapeutic foods, or if you have stories about military hospital experiences that shaped your family's approach to caring for the sick. Sego Pudding, the tropical stomach soother. In Pacific Theater hospitals where tropical diseases wreaked havoc on soldiers' digestive systems, Sego Pudding became a lifeline for those suffering from severe intestinal distress. Made from the starch extracted from sago palm, this translucent pudding was one of the few foods that could stay down during dysentery outbreaks. Hospital dietitians discovered that sago's unique properties made it ideal for inflamed intestines. Unlike other starches, sago formed a smooth, slippery texture that didn't irritate damaged intestinal walls while still providing essential carbohydrates for energy. A veteran who contracted dysentery in New Guinea told me that sago pudding was what finally broke his cycle of illness. It looked like little clear pearls in milk, nothing like regular food. But after weeks of losing everything I ate, sago was the first thing that stayed put and actually made me feel stronger. What made sago pudding remarkable was its tolerance by even the most damaged digestive systems. When soldiers' intestines had been ravaged by tropical parasites or severe infections, this gentle starch provided nutrition without triggering further inflammation or distress. Cornstarch pudding, the binding agent. For soldiers suffering from diarrhea or loose bowel movements that prevented proper nutrient absorption, cornstarch pudding served as both nutrition and natural binding agent. This smooth, mild pudding helped normalize digestive function while providing steady energy. Made with cornstarch, milk, and a small amount of sugar, this pudding created a coating effect in the digestive tract that helped slow, rapid transit times and allowed better nutrient absorption. Military nutritionists valued its dual medicinal and nutritional properties. Mrs. Anderson from Wisconsin shared that her uncle, who developed severe digestive issues after being wounded in Italy, credited cornstarch pudding with normalizing his system. Uncle Frank said it was like putting a gentle bandage inside his stomach. It didn't taste like much, but it let his body finally hold on to the nutrition it needed. The genius of cornstarch pudding was how it addressed a common but rarely discussed problem in military hospitals. When wounded soldiers couldn't properly absorb nutrients due to rapid intestinal transit, this simple food helped restore normal digestive timing. Glucose water, the emergency energy. When soldiers arrived in critical condition with dangerously low blood sugar, glucose water provided immediate, life-saving energy that could be absorbed even by unconscious patients. This clear, sweet liquid delivered pure energy directly to starving cells. Hospital staff would prepare glucose water by dissolving medical glucose in sterile water, creating a solution that could be given by mouth, feeding tube, or even absorbed through the mucous membranes. The rapid absorption made it ideal for emergency situations. A medic who served in North Africa told me that glucose water was the first treatment for soldiers found in desert conditions after being lost for days. You'd see men who were barely conscious suddenly show signs of life within minutes of getting glucose water. It was like watching someone's battery get recharged. What made glucose water invaluable was its speed of action. Unlike complex foods that require digestion, this pure sugar went directly into the bloodstream, providing immediate fuel for brain and muscle function, when seconds could mean the difference between life and death. Chicken jelly, the protein. Gelatin. When clear broths weren't substantial enough but solid food was still impossible, chicken jelly provided the perfect compromise. This protein-rich gelatin gave patients the satisfaction of eating something solid while being gentle enough for severely compromised digestive systems. Made by cooking chicken until it fell apart, then straining and cooling the liquid until it set, chicken jelly contained all the nutrients of chicken broth in a more satisfying form. Patients could eat it with a spoon, making them feel like they were having a real meal. An elderly woman whose grandfather was hospitalized after severe burns told me that chicken jelly was what helped him transition from liquids to solid food. Grandpa said it felt like eating real food again, even though it was still basically broth. That psychological boost was as important as the nutrition. The beauty of chicken jelly was how it bridged the gap between liquid and solid nutrition. For soldiers who'd been on liquid diets for weeks, the ability to actually chew something, even something that dissolved quickly, provided crucial psychological and physical satisfaction. Buttermilk, the digestive aid. In an era before probiotics were understood, buttermilk provided beneficial bacteria that helped restore healthy gut function in soldiers whose digestive systems had been disrupted by antibiotics, stress, or infection. This tangy, slightly sour milk became a powerful healing tool. Traditional buttermilk contained live cultures that helped re-establish normal intestinal flora, especially important for patients who'd received the new sulfur drugs or other medications that disrupted natural gut bacteria. Hospital staff valued its ability to reduce digestive discomfort. Mr. Thompson from Kentucky shared that his father, who spent months in a military hospital with recurring infections, swore buttermilk was what finally got his digestion back to normal. Dad said it tasted sour and strange, but within days of drinking it regularly, his stomach problems cleared up for good. What's fascinating about buttermilk is how military hospitals intuitively used it for digestive health decades before science understood the importance of gut bacteria. This traditional food provided exactly what disrupted digestive systems needed to heal properly. Oatmeal water, the gentle fiber. For patients who needed fiber to normalize bowel function but couldn't tolerate solid foods, oatmeal water provided soluble fiber in liquid form. This strained liquid from cooked oats helped regulate digestion without irritating sensitive intestines. Hospital dietitians would cook oats in extra water, then strain out the liquid, creating a slightly thick, nutritious drink that contained the beneficial compounds from oats without any solid particles. This provided gentle bulk that helped normalize digestive function. A veteran who developed severe constipation from pain medications told me that oatmeal water was what finally provided relief without causing cramping. It looked like slightly cloudy water with a hint of oat flavor, nothing dramatic, but it got things moving again without any of the harsh effects of other treatments. The value of oatmeal water lay in its gentleness. When soldiers' digestive systems had been disrupted by medications, stress, or prolonged bed rest, this mild liquid provided the fiber needed to restore normal function without causing additional distress. Lemon barley water, the vitamin C protector. In military hospitals where fresh fruits were scarce, lemon barley water became a crucial source of vitamin C that helped prevent scurvy and supported wound healing. This refreshing drink combined the benefits of barley with the essential vitamin C from lemons. Made by boiling barley, straining the liquid, and adding fresh lemon juice when available, this drink provided both kidney support from the barley and immune system support from the vitamin C. Hospital staff often sweetened it slightly to encourage consumption. Mrs. Rodriguez from California, whose uncle served in the Aleutian Islands, shared that lemon barley water was what kept the soldiers from developing scurvy during the long, dark winter months. Uncle Carlos said it was like sunshine in a glass when fresh fruit was just a memory. It kept them healthy when everything else was going wrong. What made lemon barley water particularly valuable was its dual action, supporting kidney function while providing essential vitamins. In harsh conditions where fresh produce was unavailable for months, this simple drink helped maintain basic health and prevent nutritional deficiencies. Potato water, the mineral supplement. The starchy water left over from cooking potatoes became a valuable source of potassium and other minerals for soldiers recovering from blood loss or dealing with muscle weakness. This humble byproduct provided essential electrolytes that aided in recovery. Hospital kitchens would save the water used to boil potatoes, serving it warm as a drink or using it as a base for other foods. The liquid contained minerals that had leached from the potatoes during cooking, making it more nutritious than plain water. A man whose grandfather was wounded at Iwo Jima told me that potato water was prescribed specifically for muscle cramps and weakness. Grandpa said the nurses would bring it warm in a cup, and even though it tasted like dirty water, it helped with the cramping in his legs from being bedridden so long. The wisdom of using potato water demonstrates how nothing was wasted in military hospitals. This mineral-rich liquid provided essential nutrients that helped restore proper muscle and nerve function in patients recovering from trauma and prolonged immobility. Crackers and milk, the comfort combination. For soldiers experiencing homesickness along with physical illness, crackers softened in warm milk provided both nutrition and emotional comfort. This simple combination reminded many of childhood remedies their mothers had used when they were sick. Hospital staff would crumble plain crackers into warm milk, creating a soft, easily digestible meal that provided carbohydrates, protein, and calcium. The familiar combination helped calm anxious patients while delivering essential nutrition. An elderly veteran from the European theatre told me that crackers and milk was what finally helped him sleep through the night after weeks of insomnia from pain and worry. It wasn't fancy, but it reminded me of being home and being cared for. Sometimes that's exactly what a wounded soldier needs. The power of crackers and milk went beyond nutrition. It provided psychological healing that was just as important as physical recovery. For young men far from home and facing uncertain futures, this simple food connected them to maternal care and childhood security. Beef extract, the concentrated nutrition. When patients needed maximum nutrition in minimum volume, beef extract provided concentrated protein and minerals in a form that could be given by the teaspoon. This dark, thick paste delivered more nutrition per bite than almost any other hospital food. Made by slowly reducing beef broth until it became a thick, syrup-like concentrate, beef extract could be mixed with water to make instant broth or taken directly for maximum nutritional impact. Hospital staff valued its efficiency and long shelf life. A nurse who worked in a Pacific Field hospital told me that beef extract was reserved for the most critically ill patients who couldn't consume normal amounts of food. A single teaspoon contained as much nutrition as a full bowl of broth. When every calorie counted, beef extract was literally life-saving. What made beef extract remarkable was its concentration. When soldiers were too weak to consume adequate volumes of regular food, this concentrated nutrition provided everything needed for survival and healing in the smallest possible amount. Rice pudding, the gentle sustenance. For patients transitioning from liquid diets to solid foods, rice pudding provided familiar comfort in an easily digestible form. This creamy, sweet dish felt like dessert while delivering essential carbohydrates and protein needed for recovery. Hospital dietitians would prepare rice pudding using whatever milk was available, cooking rice until completely soft and adding sugar or vanilla when possible. The smooth texture required minimal chewing while the milk provided complete proteins. Mrs. Davis from Ohio shared that her father, who was hospitalized after being wounded in France, always said rice pudding marked the beginning of his real recovery. Dad claimed that first bowl of rice pudding tasted better than any fancy restaurant meal he'd ever had. It meant he was getting his life back. The beauty of rice pudding was how it made the transition from invalid food to regular meals feel natural and enjoyable. For soldiers who'd been subsisting on broths and liquids, this sweet, substantial dish represented a return to normal eating and normal life. Toast water, the digestive reset. For patients with severely upset stomachs who couldn't tolerate any solid food, toast water provided gentle nutrition from the most basic ingredients. This liquid, made by soaking toasted bread in water, delivered easily absorbed carbohydrates without any irritating components. Hospital staff would toast bread until dark, then soak it in hot water and strain the liquid. The resulting slightly brown, mildly flavored water contained digestible starches that could settle upset stomachs while providing basic energy. A veteran who contracted severe food poisoning in the Philippines told me that toast water was the only thing he could keep down for over a week. It tasted like slightly burnt tea, but it was the first thing that didn't come right back up. That little bit of nutrition kept me from completely wasting away. What made toast water valuable was its extreme gentleness. When soldiers' digestive systems had been completely disrupted by illness or medication, this simple liquid provided the mildest possible nutrition that could begin the healing process. Egg water, the pure protein liquid. When patients needed protein but couldn't tolerate even the mildest solid foods, egg water provided pure nutrition in liquid form. Made by slowly stirring raw eggs into warm water, this created a protein-rich drink that required no digestion of complex structures. Hospital nutritionists would carefully prepare egg water using the freshest eggs available, ensuring the mixture was smooth and free of any lumps that might be difficult to swallow. The result was nearly pure liquid protein that could be absorbed immediately. An elderly woman whose uncle nearly died from complications after surgery told me that egg water was what sustained him when nothing else would stay down. Uncle Robert said it didn't taste like anything recognizable, but you could feel it giving you strength. It was like drinking liquid energy. The genius of egg water was its bioavailability. When patients' bodies were too weak to break down complex proteins, this pre-dissolved nutrition provided exactly what was needed for cellular repair and basic survival in the most accessible form possible. Milk porridge, the Nordic healer. In Northern European military hospitals, milk porridge became a staple food that provided sustained energy and comfort during long, cold recoveries. This simple combination of grain and milk offered complete nutrition in a warming, satisfying form. Made with oats, rice, or whatever grain was available, cooked slowly in milk until creamy, this porridge provided complex carbohydrates, complete proteins, and essential fats. The warm temperature helped maintain body heat in patients who couldn't move enough to generate warmth naturally. Mr. Johnson from Minnesota, whose father was hospitalized in England during the winter of 1944, shared that milk porridge was what got him through the coldest months of his recovery. Dad said it was like eating warm comfort. In those freezing hospital wards, hot porridge was better than medicine. What made milk porridge particularly valuable was its ability to provide both immediate and sustained energy. The milk protein supported healing while the grain carbohydrates provided steady fuel for basic body functions during the long process of recovery. Fruit juice gelatin, the vitamin delivery. When fresh fruits were unavailable but vitamin C was desperately needed, fruit juice gelatin provided essential nutrients in a form that even nauseated patients could tolerate. This colorful, flavorful gelatin made medicine feel like a treat. Hospital dietitians would prepare gelatin using whatever fruit juices were available, often canned or reconstituted, creating vitamin-rich desserts that helped prevent scurvy and supported immune function. The appealing appearance encouraged consumption. A veteran who spent months in a Pacific hospital told me that fruit juice gelatin was what finally helped him regain his appetite after weeks of nausea from medication. It was the first thing that actually looked and tasted good in weeks. Sometimes you need food to remind you that eating can be pleasurable. The value of fruit juice gelatin went beyond vitamins. It provided psychological relief from the monotony of bland hospital food. For soldiers dealing with depression and loss of appetite, this colorful, flavorful food helped restore interest in eating and living. Malted milk, the strength builder. Rich, creamy malted milk became a concentrated source of calories and nutrition for soldiers who needed to rebuild strength and body weight after severe illness or injury. This sweet, malty drink packed maximum nutrition into every sip. Made with malted milk powder, regular milk, and sometimes ice cream when available, this drink provided complex carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and B vitamins in a form that felt like a treat rather than medicine. The familiar taste reminded soldiers of soda fountain drinks from home. Uncle Bill said it was like drinking liquid strength. He could feel his energy returning with every glass, and it actually tasted like something he'd choose to drink. What made malted milk remarkable was its caloric density. When soldiers needed to gain weight quickly to support healing, this rich drink provided more calories and nutrients per ounce than almost any other liquid food available in military hospitals. Chicken tea, the clear protein. When patients needed protein but couldn't handle the fat or particles in regular chicken broth, chicken tea provided pure, clear nutrition. Made by carefully clarifying chicken stock, this crystal-clear liquid delivered protein without any elements that might upset sensitive stomachs. Hospital chefs would prepare chicken tea by slowly cooking chicken, then carefully straining and clarifying the broth until it was completely clear, while retaining all the nutritional benefits. The result looked like weak tea but contained concentrated chicken nutrition. A man whose grandfather was hospitalized with severe digestive complications told me that chicken tea was the bridge between water and real food. Grandpa said it looked like tea but tasted like the essence of chicken. It was substantial enough to feel like nourishment, but gentle enough that his stomach accepted it. The art of making chicken tea demonstrated the sophistication of military hospital nutrition. This clear liquid provided essential amino acids for healing while being refined enough for the most sensitive digestive systems. Sweetened condensed milk, the emergency calorie. When soldiers arrived severely malnourished or couldn't consume adequate calories through regular eating, sweetened condensed milk provided concentrated nutrition in a small, highly palatable package. This thick, Sweet milk delivered maximum calories in minimum volume. Hospital staff would serve sweetened condensed milk by the spoonful or diluted in water, providing rapid access to calories, proteins, and sugars that could quickly raise blood sugar and provide energy for basic body functions. An elderly veteran who was found after being missing for weeks in the Pacific told me that sweetened condensed milk was the first food that made him feel human again. It was so thick and sweet, it was almost like candy, but you could feel it bringing you back to life. Just a few spoonfuls made all the difference. What made sweetened condensed milk invaluable was its efficiency. When patients couldn't or wouldn't eat adequate amounts of regular food, this concentrated nutrition provided essential calories and nutrients in the smallest possible serving size. Bread and milk, the universal comfort. Perhaps the most basic and universal hospital food was simple bread soaked in warm milk. This humble combination provided familiar comfort while delivering essential carbohydrates and proteins in an easily digestible form that reminded patients of home and childhood. Hospital staff would tear fresh bread into pieces and soak it in warm milk, creating a soft, comforting meal that required no chewing and reminded many soldiers of their mother's care when they were sick children. Mrs. Wilson from Pennsylvania shared that her father, who was wounded at the Battle of the Bulge, always said bread and milk was what made him remember why he wanted to live. Dad said it wasn't just food, it was love in a bowl. It reminded him of home and gave him something to fight for. The power of bread and milk extended far beyond nutrition. For young men facing death, disability, and separation from everything they loved, this simple food provided a connection to maternal care and the promise that healing and home were still possible. Beef juice, the liquid strength. When solid meat was impossible but patients desperately needed concentrated protein, beef juice provided nutrition in its most concentrated liquid form. Made by pressing or extracting juice from raw beef, this dark red liquid delivered protein and iron without requiring digestion of solid matter. Hospital staff would prepare beef juice using specialized presses or by carefully chopping and pressing lean beef to extract its nutritious juices. The resulting liquid contained concentrated nutrients from muscle tissue without any fiber or fat. A veteran who nearly died from blood loss told me that beef juice was what helped rebuild his strength when he was too weak to eat solid food. It looked like dark blood and didn't taste like anything you'd want to drink, but you could feel it putting strength back into your body with every sip. What made beef juice remarkable was its concentration of bioavailable nutrients. When patients' bodies were desperate for protein and iron but couldn't handle solid foods, this liquid provided exactly what was needed in the most digestible form possible. Peptanized milk, the pre-digested nutrition. For patients whose digestive systems had been severely damaged by illness or medication, peptanized milk provided nutrition that had been partially broken down before consumption. This pre-digested milk could be absorbed even by severely compromised intestines. Using digestive enzymes, hospital staff would partially break down regular milk proteins, creating a form that required minimal digestive work while still providing complete nutrition. This allowed even critically ill patients to receive essential proteins and fats. An elderly woman whose uncle suffered severe digestive damage from dysentery told me that peptanized milk was what finally allowed his body to absorb nutrition again. The science behind peptanized milk was advanced for its time, recognizing that sometimes the digestive process itself needed to be simplified to allow healing. This pre-processed nutrition provided life-saving support for severely ill patients. Whey, the digestive stimulant. Made by adding wine to milk and straining out the curds, Whey provided gentle nutrition with appetite-stimulating properties. This clear, slightly alcoholic liquid helped encourage eating while being gentle enough for sensitive stomachs. Hospital dietitians would prepare Whey by carefully curdling milk with wine, then straining the resulting liquid. The whey contained milk proteins and minerals, while the small amount of alcohol helped stimulate appetite and digestion. Mr. Anderson from California shared that his father, who lost his appetite completely after being wounded, credited Whey with helping him want to eat again. Dad said it didn't taste like much, but somehow it made him remember what it felt like to be hungry. That little spark of appetite was what started his real recovery. The genius of Whey was its dual action, providing nutrition while stimulating the desire for more food. For soldiers who'd lost interest in eating due to depression, pain, or medication, this gentle stimulant helped restart their relationship with food. Meat jelly, the savory protein. When sweet jellies became monotonous but patients still couldn't handle solid foods, meat jelly provided savory protein in gelatin form. Made from concentrated meat stocks, this savory gelatin offered the satisfaction of meat flavor without requiring chewing. Hospital chefs would prepare meat jelly by reducing rich meat stocks until concentrated, then adding gelatin to create a firm, sliceable product that could be eaten with a spoon but provided the psychological satisfaction of eating meat. A veteran who was hospitalized for months after severe burns told me that meat jelly was what made him feel like he was eating real food again. It looked like dark brown jelly, but it tasted like pot roast. After weeks of sweet puddings and bland broths, having something that tasted like dinner was incredible. What made meat jelly valuable was its ability to provide protein satisfaction without the work of chewing. For patients with oral injuries, extreme weakness, or prolonged liquid diets, this savory gelatin bridged the gap between invalid food and regular meals. Milk punch, the caloric concentrate. This rich, egg-based drink provided more concentrated nutrition than almost any other liquid available in military hospitals. Made with milk, eggs, sugar, and sometimes a small amount of spirits, Milk Punch delivered proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and calories in a single glass. Hospital nutritionists would prepare Milk Punch for patients who'd lost dangerous amounts of weight or needed rapid caloric intake to support healing. The rich, creamy texture made it feel substantial while being completely liquid. Mrs. Garcia from New Mexico, whose uncle spent months recovering from severe wounds, shared that Milk Punch was prescribed like medicine 3 times a day. Uncle Miguel said it was so rich he could only drink it slowly, but each glass was like eating a whole meal. He brought his weight back up when nothing else could. The power of Milk Punch lay in its efficiency, maximum nutrition in minimum volume. When patients couldn't consume large amounts of food but desperately needed calories for healing, this concentrated drink provided everything needed for recovery. Slippery Elm Grul, the throat soother. For soldiers with throat injuries, severe coughing, or difficulty swallowing, Slippery Elm Grul provided nutrition while coating and protecting damaged throat tissues. Made from the inner bark of slippery elm trees, this mucilaginous gruel created a protective barrier that eased swallowing. Hospital staff would mix slippery elm powder with warm water or milk, creating a smooth, slightly thick liquid that went down easily while providing healing compounds. The natural mucilage formed a soothing coating that protected inflamed tissues from further irritation. A veteran who suffered throat injuries from poison gas exposure told me that slippery elm gruel was the only food he could swallow without excruciating pain. It felt like drinking liquid silk, smooth and soothing all the way down. Without it, I wouldn't have been able to eat anything for weeks. What made slippery elm gruel remarkable was its dual action, providing nutrition while actively healing damaged throat tissues. For soldiers with combat injuries affecting their ability to swallow, this traditional remedy became modern medicine that supported both nutrition and recovery. Dextrose solution, the medical sugar. When patients were critically ill and couldn't process complex carbohydrates, pure dextrose solution provided immediate glucose that could fuel vital organs without requiring any digestive work. This medical-grade Sweetened sugar water was often the difference between life and death. Hospital staff would prepare carefully measured dextrose solutions that provided rapid energy to starving cells, especially crucial for brain function when patients were unconscious or severely malnourished. The pure glucose bypassed all digestive processes, going directly into the bloodstream. A medic who served in field hospitals across Europe told me that dextrose solution was what brought back soldiers found unconscious from exposure or blood loss. You'd see men who looked like they were gone suddenly start responding within minutes. Their eyes would focus, and you knew their brain was getting fuel again. The precision of dextrose solution represented the advancing medical science of W2. Unlike crude sugar water, this measured glucose provided exactly what critically ill patients needed. pure energy that could sustain life while other treatments took effect. Rennet custard, the gentle dessert. This old-fashioned custard, made by curdling milk with natural rennet, provided easily digestible protein in a form so gentle it could be tolerated even by patients with severe stomach ulcers or gastritis. The natural curdling process created a soft, smooth texture that required no digestive effort. Hospital dietitians valued rennet custard because it could be made with basic ingredients while providing complete proteins that had been partially broken down by the natural enzymes. The mild, sweet flavor encouraged consumption even among patients who'd lost interest in eating. Mrs. Peterson from Iowa shared that her uncle, who developed severe stomach problems from stress and poor field rations, credited rennet custard with healing his digestive issues. Uncle Harold said it was like eating clouds, so gentle you barely knew you were eating, but substantial enough to help his stomach heal. What made rennet custard special was its biological gentleness. The natural curdling process created proteins that were easier to digest than regular milk, making it perfect for patients whose digestive systems needed time to recover from trauma or medication damage. Invalid cookery, the complete system. Finally, what made all these individual foods powerful was how they worked together as a complete system of invalid cookery, a sophisticated approach to medical nutrition that recognized food as medicine and eating as healing. Military hospital dietitians didn't just serve random gentle foods, they created carefully planned progressions from liquid nutrition through semi-solid foods to regular diets. Each food had its place in the healing journey, designed to support specific stages of recovery. A woman whose grandmother was a military hospital dietitian told me that invalid cookery was considered as important as surgery in patient recovery. Grandma always said that you could perform perfect surgery, but if you couldn't get proper nutrition into the patient afterward, all your work was wasted. Food was medicine, and medicine was food. What makes this system remarkable is how it anticipated modern nutritional medicine by decades. These wartime dietitians understood that different stages of illness required different nutritional approaches, and that successful healing required both physical and psychological nourishment. World War II was a time of unprecedented medical challenges, but it was also a period that demonstrated the remarkable healing power of carefully chosen foods. These 50 hospital meals represent more than just nutrition. They showcase the wisdom of military dietitians who understood that feeding the body and soul were equally important for recovery. What strikes me most about these therapeutic foods isn't just their medical effectiveness, but the compassion they represent. Each dish was chosen not only for its nutritional value, but for its ability to provide comfort, hope, and human dignity to soldiers facing their darkest hours. For those of you watching whose relatives served in WW2, perhaps you recognize some of these foods from family stories. Maybe your grandfather still made egg custard when family members were sick, or your grandmother always served milk toast to anyone feeling poorly. These weren't just random preferences, but inherited wisdom about the healing power of gentle nutrition. If you found this journey through WW Hospital Foods meaningful or nostalgic, hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations of medical and food history. I'd love to hear in the comments if your family used any of these therapeutic foods, or if you have stories about military hospital experiences that shaped your family's approach to caring for the sick. Until next time, remember that sometimes the most powerful medicine comes in the simplest forms. Those who developed these hospital meals understood that healing requires more than just calories. It requires foods that nourish both body and spirit during life's most challenging moments.